The proposal for U.S. land strikes against Latin American drug cartels represents a significant and controversial escalation of American counter-narcotics policy. This shift was precipitated by a series of lethal military strikes against suspected drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean, primarily originating from Venezuela. To legally justify these kinetic actions, the administration designated major cartels, including Venezuela's Tren de Aragua and the alleged Cartel de los Soles, as foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs. Crucially, it then notified Congress that the U.S. is engaged in a non-international armed conflict with these groups. This declaration attempts to provide the legal basis under the Law of Armed Conflict, LOAC, to treat alleged cartel members as unlawful combatants and use lethal military force against them, thereby bypassing traditional law enforcement and judicial processes. Analysis and reasons for escalation. The primary stated reasons for this military escalation are threefold. Armed attack. Justification. The administration argues that the tens of thousands of American deaths caused annually by illicit narcotics, particularly fentanyl, constitute an ongoing armed attack against the United States. This reinterpretation of drug trafficking as an existential security threat, akin to the threat posed by groups like Al-Qaeda, is the core legal and moral rationale for lethal force. Failure of traditional interdiction. Officials argue that decades of conventional maritime interdiction and aerial reconnaissance efforts have failed to stem the flow of drugs, necessitating a shift toward decisive military action. President Trump notably remarked that while cartels use world-class speedboats, they are not faster than missiles. Pressure on the Maduro regime. The military operations are heavily focused on Venezuela, where the U.S. has long accused President Nicolás Maduro and his inner circle of participating in the drug trade, the alleged Cartel de los Soles. The escalation is widely viewed as a dual-purpose strategy, disrupting drug flows and simultaneously intensifying political and military pressure for regime change in Caracas. Critics, however, contend the actions are extrajudicial, politically motivated, and lack convincing evidence. The administration has repeatedly failed to provide Congress with proof that the targeted vessels were carrying narcotics, or that the individuals killed were confirmed criminals, leading to accusations of a fabricated casus belli for a potential military intervention. Consequences and legal fallout. The move to treat cartels as non-state armed groups, rather than criminal enterprises, has profound domestic and international consequences. Constitutional crisis over war powers. The declaration of an armed conflict without explicit congressional authorization has provoked a bipartisan backlash. The U.S. Constitution grants Congress the sole authority to declare war, and critics argue the executive branch is unilaterally assuming wartime powers, setting a dangerous precedent for future military actions without democratic oversight. Violation of international law. Legal experts across the globe, including UN officials, have condemned the strikes as potential extrajudicial killings. Under international law, shipping drugs does not constitute an armed attack that triggers a state's right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. The use of military force must be a last resort, and the decision to destroy vessels and kill occupants rather than attempt an interdiction and arrest violates established legal principles for addressing transnational crime. Diplomatic isolation and regional instability. The operations have severely strained relations with Venezuela, which has condemned the attacks as acts of aggression and extrajudicial killings. Furthermore, the administration's handling of alleged Colombian involvement in one of the strikes sparked a diplomatic dispute with the Colombian president, showcasing the fragility of anti-drug cooperation in the region and risking the U.S.'s standing among its Latin American allies. Prediction and sustainable solutions. Prediction. Should the administration follow through with the threat of land strikes, such operations would likely be highly targeted, utilizing air power or special operations forces against specific rural drug storage facilities, airstrips, or command nodes within Venezuelan territory. It is unlikely to involve a large-scale invasion of major cities. While the Venezuelan military is assessed to be incapable of defeating the U.S. in open conflict, such a strike would constitute an undeniable act of war, risking high operational costs, civilian casualties, and potential blowback. Historically, military campaigns aimed at supply reduction often fail, as drug production simply shifts to neighboring areas. The short-term effect would be minimal on the total drug flow, but would provide the Maduro regime with a powerful political tool to rally nationalist support and justify increased persecution of political opposition. Solutions and alternatives. A sustainable, effective strategy requires a holistic approach that moves beyond kinetic military strikes. Financial disruption and sanctions. Focusing on the vast financial networks that sustain cartels is more effective than eliminating low-level transporters. Leveraging anti-money laundering tools, targeted sanctions, and international cooperation to seize assets and disrupt financial flows can cripple cartel infrastructure. Demand reduction and public health. The root cause of the crisis is domestic demand. Shifting resources toward evidence-based community harm reduction, addiction treatment, and recovery programs is crucial for mitigating the crisis in the U.S. Anti-corruption and judicial cooperation. Working collaboratively with neighboring states like Mexico and Colombia to bolster judicial systems, enhance border control, and root out high-level corruption within political and security sectors will allow those nations to dismantle cartels from the inside, which is ultimately the most sustainable approach. Targeting the supply chain, precursors. Disrupting the flow of precursor chemicals, often from Asia, used to manufacture synthetic drugs like fentanyl, can choke the supply before it even reaches the Americas.